right players.
Talking about doing it right, is getting the right, identifying the right talent, etc., that fits the club's culture and new philosophy, etc. But just talk us through how you spend that money, because if you say you have 100 million for a round figure, and you buy two £50 million players, right, in the first week of your window, the way that's structured, would that mean that you could maybe buy more than 150 million pound, 100 million pound players if it's structured right? Can you talk us through that?
Because the way that you do it for PSR purposes, you sign a £50 million player on a 5-year contract. That costs you 10 million a year.
We'll get back to Rio in just a quick second, but remember, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification button so that you know when the next Big D video hits. And also, as always, if you've got something to say, the Big D wants to read it. So please put your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, in this little clip, Rio Ferdinand's going to be talking to his nice new shiny financial football expert, and they are going to be talking about Manchester United and what they might need to do to move forward in a positive direction. And as ever, it's a simple fix. But anyway, we'll let the guys talk about it and then stick around for after the clip, because the Big D is going to be giving his thoughts on what's been said in the clip. You know how this works. Here they are.
Shame.
You had questions about United when we spoke about the next steps.
Yeah, what are the key steps? If you was to go, right, here's a 4, 5, 6 point plan where Man United, you've analysed the books, etc., in the club. This is where they can actually make a real dent in what's gone on so far and actually generate a club that financially looking more stable, but also might see a reflection on the pitch as well.
Well, they've got to spend smart rather than spending big. If you look at what Liverpool have done, where they were in 2009 when FSG came in, they recruited a director of research, they recruited Michael Edwards, and they said, this is how we're going to build a team. So we're not recruiting players, we're recruiting a team. And we're going to get a coach who plays with the philosophy of football that we want.
For the club.
For the club. And therefore, if the coach goes, you bring in somebody else who's got that same philosophy. If you look at the smaller clubs that have been successful, the likes of Brentford and Brighton and so on.
So well.
That's what they do. This is the Brentford way of doing it.
They're very database driven, them two teams you just mentioned as well.
Yeah.
And United, there's been too much influence of coaches in terms of recruitment. Their voice has to be heard. There's been too much focus on the social media of recruiting players with
big followings.
Yeah, and it is difficult if Manchester United had recruited Mitoma for $2.5 million. United fans are saying, $2.5 million. What are we doing? So there is a pressure. You've got to ignore the noise, and I think you've also got to have a long-term plan. So what you don't do is recruit a director of football, spend £219 million, because that's what they spent in the summer transfer window, and then sack him 5 months later because his culture is different to that of INEOS. And you've got to have football people making decisions. So I would say, this is our long-term strategy. This is the culture of the club. This is what we're going to stick at. It's going to be not pleasant initially, perhaps for a couple of years, but this is how we're going to do it. And you get the impression at Manchester United that they gave Erik ten Hag an extension to his contract in June. So therefore that's a vote of confidence, and then the sack in 5 months later, it cost them an extra 10
Terrible
million.
Bit of business that, wasn't it?
It's a sign of the people at the top not really knowing what they're doing. So you need an owner and a chief executive and a director of football, all of whom are rowing in the same direction and say, this is the Manchester United way of doing things. This is how we're going to play football. We're not going to recruit a player because he's played against us or people on Match of the Day have said that he's good. We're going to recruit a player because, in terms of the style of play that we're looking at, these are the data analytical things which suggest that this player not only is good in that position, but he's actually a complement to the players playing alongside him. Because if you do that, you get benefits.
It's a mess. It's a mess because if you look at your last 5 managers or so. You've gone from, obviously Sir Alex, you can't count him, but then you've got David Moyes, different style of football. Then you've got LVG. Then you've got Mourinho, who plays a different style of football. Then you've got Ole, who's different. Then you've got, it's just been Eric Ten Hag. Then you change the formation.
But the main point, what I think I agree with Kieran, is that each of those managers had too much influence on who they were buying. Just quickly before we move on from Man United, but the Man United fans want to know, I think, and I'm speaking on behalf of them, how much, it's the burning question, how much will they get to spend in the summer to help Ruben Amorim, who needs a lot of help at the moment? Like if they sell Rashford, the likes of him and others, Anthony.
If you're getting these people off the wage bill, first of all, so Marcus Rashford and Anthony, you're saving yourselves £500,000 a week in wages. So that's £25 million that's gone into the kitty. Wow. It looks like Villa have got an option to buy Marcus Rashford for around about 40 million, which if he's, I saw him play the last couple of weeks, that's looking a bargain.
Mm.
So
he's looking good.
He's an academy player, so that's pure profit. So that goes. So there's no reason why Manchester United still can't spend significant sums. Remember, last year they sold Mason Greenwood, they sold Scott McTominay, and they've made 1 or 2 disposals in January as well. So I don't think that it's a case of how much they can spend. They can spend far more than 100 million. It's a case of doing it right, getting the right players.
Talking about doing it right, is getting the right, identifying the right talent, etc. That fits the club's culture and new philosophy, etc. But just talk us through how you spend that money, because if you say you have 100 million for a round figure, and you buy two £50 million players, right, in the first week of your window, the way that's structured, would that mean that you could maybe buy more than £150 million, £100 million players if it's structured right? Yeah. Can you talk us through that?
Because the way that you do it for PSR purposes, you sign a £50 million player on a 5-year contract, that costs you £10 million a year. So,
but does the club receiving the money have to agree that we're not going to pay you £50 million up front?
No, the cash doesn't matter. It's for PSR purposes, and normally deals are done on instalments. So, but that's not doesn't affect PSR. What they say, they've got this word amortization. So it says you take the transfer fee and you divide that by the contract. So if you look at Chelsea selling Mason Mount to Manchester United for 60 mil. That was 60 mil straight into the equation. They signed Caicedo for 100 million on an 8-year contract. 100 divided by 8 is 12.5.
So is that why they're making the 8-year contract?
So
they're letting
now the Premier League now said you've got to be a maximum of 5 for PSR purposes, but still you've got 60 million from the sale of Mason Mount. Even if you said Caicedo's on a 5-year contract, 100 divided by 5 is you can sign 3 Caicedos if you sell 1 academy player. Wow. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. This is why clubs are loving it from a perspective of getting rid of your kids.
It's a no-brainer, really. Spend smart, not big. Yes. Good grief. I mean, it's just such a no-brainer. It's just so simple. Of course, spend smart, not big. I say something different, but it's basically the same thing. Make astute signings. Just make sure you find the right profile of player and don't overpay for him. Instead of just going out for a massive name. The Big D's just speechless, really, for once. He's speechless because it's like 1 + 1 = 2. Well, duh. But there's been too many people at the club just making bonehead decisions because they are bean counter professionals, like that Murtaugh and Woodward before him. I mean, was Woodward an accountant? He wasn't a football man, was he? But I've said this before. I think INEOS are making some good signings. I don't have a problem with any one of the signings that INEOS has made so far. And I said on the previous video, it'd be nice to see what astute goal-scoring option they're going to sign in the summer. And yeah, Manchester United are always going to be able to spend some cash. They might not be able to spend £200 million on a player, not just yet anyway, but with the amount of revenue that the team generates, the club generates in merchandise, broadcasting and sponsorship and match day tickets and pies that they sell and beer that they sell, and telling you now, the Big D has first-hand experience of the beer and the hot dogs and the pies at Old Trafford. And they are overpriced. They are. And you don't get much option when it comes to the beers and stuff. Very gassy. But they're always going to be able to buy players, but it's just the right players that they need to sign. And again, you just need to get footballing people making these decisions. I mean, just think of the astute signings that we could have gotten over the years that we didn't get because there hasn't been anyone competent in charge who were paying attention and putting the effort in. I mean, Erling Haaland, we could have got Erling Haaland for like 17 million euros. Good grief. But that didn't work out. Because the thing is as well, when if you say you make 3 astute signings for a reasonable amount of money and 2 of them are a flop, the one that's not a flop offsets the 2 that were. I mean, Ferguson wasn't perfect with the players that he signed. I mean, for every Michael Owen, there was a Cristiano Ronaldo and a Wayne Rooney. For every Obertan, there was a Rio Ferdinand and a Ruud van Nistelrooy, For every Juan Sebastian Veron, who cost a fortune that didn't work out, we bought a Roy Keane and a Gary Pallister and an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for a snip as well. And Fergie was the master at astute signings, buying precisely what the team needs when it needs it for a reasonable amount of money. I mean, just think about how much we bought Dennis Irwin for. What was it? It was less than $1 million. I think Schmeichel cost about 800 grand. Peter Schmeichel! Cheapest chips, Eric Cantona cost £1 million. Eric Cantona cost £1 million. Even back then. I mean, we paid about, what was it? Was it 2.75 for Roy Keane, a young Roy Keane? And we got Cantona for less than that. So, I mean, Ferguson did spend some money, back in the day. He did, but usually he got the big name signings right. I'm trying to think of the big name signings that he got that didn't work out. Well, Veron sticks out. He didn't work out. He says Owen Hargreaves was one of his worst ever signings, but he won the Champions League in the league in his first season as an integral part of the squad. I mean, it didn't work out over the 5 years, but I mean, we got that one special year out of him. We got Tevez on loan. So, yeah, spend smart, not big. So we need to make sure that we get a proper number 9 who can score goals. Because the Big D was encouraged at the weekend against Everton. And our last astute signing, Patrick Dorgu, really made a difference. He created a nice width in the game at times. He was athletic. He got stuck in. He was positive. He was... he was a burst of fresh air and energy in that team. And if we can buy, let's say, 3 more Dorgus, obviously I don't mean 3 more left backs, but 3 more astute signings like Dorgu, Manchester United skyrocket to the top of the table. Maybe not number 1, but they'll be in top 4. Easy. But it's not rocket science. Just get everyone, pointing in the right direction and make wise decisions when it comes to recruitment. Goodness. Hey. Football is a simple game made complicated unnecessarily. But anyway, what do you guys think? Is the Fancy Pants financial expert correct? Do you agree with the Big D, or do you think we're both talking nonsense? And you think it's the player's fault? Anyway, as always, thoughts in the comments, and the Big D will see you in the next one.